Hey up! It's been a while since I did a mod video, and since then I've joined a couple multiplayer servers. So, before I make a clean slate ready for build 42, I wanted to go through all the mods I've collected and share with you some of the best ones. You'll find a mod pack in the description with all the mods. Don't download the pack, it probably won't work. Just select the mods you want from it. As always, the first mod you need is the mod manager. It allows you to create presets, easily enable and disable mods, and it's just so essential that I don't think Zomboid would have a modding community without it. I also recommend Error Magnifier, for when your game inevitably breaks because you installed the entire fucking mod pack. You idiot. And this time, there's also a few mods that require manual installation. It's dead easy. You just take the workshop ID, go to your steamapps folder, workshop 108-600, and then search for the workshop ID. It can vary depending on the mod, but it's usually just the zombie folder. You just copy and paste that into your zomboid directory. Verifying your game files will remove these changes, so have a backup folder with the individual mods for easy swapping. So let's split the mods up into categories. We have Immersion, Crafting and Building, Quality of Life, Challenges, Weapons, Armour and Clothing, Cars, Maps, and at the very end, I'll give you some combinations that work really well together. Yeah, there's a lot. Immersive mods cover quite a range. There's definitely a crossover of what some people think are immersive or just quality of life, so not all of these will necessarily feel like the right category for you, but oh well. True Music is one of the biggest mods for immersion. Carry a boombox, or stick a Walkman in your pocket. Having music physically in the world is just so fucking cool. Obviously I can't show you much of this because of copyright, so there's not much more I can say about it. It's also kind of illegal to be on the workshop because of copyright, so enjoy it while it lasts. Similarly, Lifestyle lets you play the music. It's very grindy. You'd have to play the guitar every day for years before you can start getting some levels. For me, it's not something I really work towards, but being able to sit down with a guitar every once in a while is really nice. And it works on multiplayer. Advanced Trajectory Realistic Overhaul is a mod that converts the standard outline aiming with mouse aim. It's completely overpowered, but it's a much more engaging way to use firearms. You may have to adjust gun and ammo loot to balance it out, but it's worth trying out. The dependency mods aren't required, even though Steam will prompt you to download them, though true crouching is in this video anyway. Take a Bath seemed like a silly little mod that I never used, until I realised it also works with showers. I don't know, just the moment I realised this, it just sort of clicked.
Oh my god, it worked! I thought you could only take a bath, but they've got a shower animation as well.
With a lot of immersion mods, you need to either suspend your disbelief or roleplay it a little, but I honestly just think this is the best way to play Zomboid. I've mastered all the mechanics, I've beaten unreasonable challenges. Taking a step back and letting yourself be immersed in the world, instead of speeding up time for 5 days straight to read books with no sleep, really helps you appreciate the game. Speaking of sleep, the Pass Out mod fixes that issue. It's a configurable mod that makes you pass out if you stay up too long. If you want to further immerse yourself in the game's mechanics, then Saf's cooking expands ingredients, recipes, and meals. It's a little overwhelming for me, since I just eat canned food straight out of the can like a true survivor. I also recommend energy drinks. It's a tiny mod, but adding another way to reduce fatigue in those emergency scenarios is mega useful. And for when your character just can't take it anymore, or you don't want to succumb to the Nox infection, there's Authentic Suicide and Gunslinger's Redemption. Whichever one is still up, because they keep getting banned. Yeah, Valve, because drinking bleach is so much better. Alternatively, if you get a bite on one of your arms, there is one way you can survive. This is the only cure, and you better act fast. This is one of my favourite mods because it has dire consequences. It's very debilitating. Until you get a good prosthetic, your actions will take extremely long. Honestly, it's so bad you'll probably lose interest in your character, so keep that in mind. Alright, I need to speed up. Barricaded World makes almost every building have planks or metal sheets on the windows. It really adds to the sense that you're in the apocalypse, and people tried to survive. Curus's remod of Better Lockpicking adds a minigame for picking and prying locked doors, as well as hotwiring cars. Crashed Cars is a retexture for the burnt models. It just adds some diversity. Destroyable world fences make zombies attack tall fences in the world, like their player structures. They have a ton of HP, so I recommend turning it down. Depends on your playstyle. Dive Through Windows lets you sprint and jump through any closed window. The chances of injury are configurable, but the default is pretty good. It's for emergencies after all. Draw on the map, extra map symbols, and map symbol slider all work together to make the map way more customizable. Drawing on the map is one of my favourite things to do. Expanded Helicopter Events adds configurable helicopter events. It can have a real effect on your game, like drawing hordes to or away from you, helping you, and even hindering you.
Fuck! Holy shit.
Sapphire's heaters, Smokey Joe's sleeping bags, and gas plates let you live out your fantasy of being a hermit in the woods. The electric heater is pretty overpowered, so I don't recommend it for a challenge run. It's just cozy and immersive. The propane gas plate is also sort of broken. Once you place it, you have to remove the propane tank to pick it back up, which spawns a full 10 weight propane tank, despite the gas plate only weighing 2. so you need to carry around a full propane tank, which kinda gets in the way of using it for camping. It's fine if you have a car, but if not, I'd just try and find another gas plate to replace it. I also recommend lighter camping equipment. Trees Have Loot lets you get those pesky tree branches needed for so many early recipes. No more foraging in the woods for hours to find just a bloody branch. Tuck and Roll lets you triple tap E to jump out of a moving car. Sometimes you just really need to get out. Just remember that doing it at 150 miles an hour will kill you. Water Goes Bad adds configurable options for making tap water drain and get tainted. Even with weak stomach, it's very hard to kill your character with tainted water, so don't worry about it. The drain option makes water a very serious issue though, which I really like. Working Masks makes the vanilla mask help with corpse sickness. With a proper gas mask, you can be safely in a room with 1,000 corpses. Supercar adds trolleys which weigh a ton but have 100% weight reduction. They work like bags that are dropped when not equipped, so you're a little vulnerable with them, but you can easily drop them by moving while aiming. You can also load them into a car boot, but they can only go up and down via stairs. Quick tidbit. Dozens of mods are released every day. In the long process of making this video, a whole bunch of great mods have been released, so at the end of each segment there'll probably be some quick last minute additions. I can't really say that I've tested them thoroughly, but I don't want to leave them out. Standing Items gives loads of items different poses when placed. Don't you think it's weird that you lay all your tools, weapons and instruments flat on the ground? Blackouts adds rolling electrical outages before the power goes out. I doubt it's long enough to make your food go off, but how cool is that? Plus, it makes runs with power going out after the first month much more engaging. Pillows Upgrade Beds is a simple little mod to increase sleep quality. If you didn't know already, the quality of the bed you sleep on determines how fast you sleep and how much fatigue you have when you wake up. A good bed is 1 hour faster and 0 fatigue when you wake up, whereas a bad bed takes 12 hours and gives you 20% fatigue when you wake up. Wearable Towels is probably going to be good for those crazy roleplay servers. Smoker's Cough gives your character an audible cough that can attract zombies. It is a negative trait after all. In-game maps isn't new, but I wasn't going to put it in originally. Basically, it re-renders the map based on what's actually in-game. I originally used it for the Slocan Lake map mod, which doesn't have an in-game map, but using it with lots of map mods caused lag and even crashes. If you don't have many map mods, I recommend it. Just know that if you crash, it might be the culprit. Descriptive tooltips for skill levels, just like the Moodle and trait mods, explains the intricacies of skill levels. There's so much that the game doesn't tell you, like percentage changes for fitness, knowing what's wrong with plants, and what you can find at what foraging level for example. And More Zombie Death Animations does just that. And I'm going to tack on at the very end here the 360 Vision mod. As a content creator, this mod is so helpful for making engaging content. It is absolutely cheating, being able to see behind you, but how cool is this? If your PC can handle it, it's another manual install mod. It comes with more zoom levels mod, which I also recommend. Next, there are a few character and animation mods. Authentic Animations, Authentic Pose, and Foo's Roleplay Poses all add poses to the radial menu. It's absolutely only for roleplay purposes and nothing else, but why not sit comfortably while watching Life and Living? True Actions, however, does have some utility. While it's still entirely roleplay, you can lay down before going to sleep, which is a nice little feature. And of course you can't forget the dancing mod, which everybody loves. Skizot's Carryable Everything makes most objects and furniture carried in two hands have a physical model. It's a little scuffed. For instance, if you drop it by entering a combat stance, it'll drop an item instead of the tile, which needs to be picked up and equipped to be dropped correctly into its intended form. It also seems to mess with some objects. I kept duplicating TVs in the Mall series. Fancy Handwork adds a bunch of animations for doors, light switches, curtains, etc. It also lets you switch your primary and secondary, so you can have a pistol in one hand and a melee in the other and quickly switch them. There is also Brutal Handwork, which lets you attack with your offhand weapon, which is going to be essential if you use the Only Cure and cut off your right arm. I don't particularly like this mod though. It's pretty janky, and I don't like the punching mechanic, even if you can disable it. Next, we have True Crouching. You may have noticed that when you crouch near a fence, you crouch lower. This mod just makes it so that you always crouch at that level. It also adds a crouched aiming pose. And finally, we have Fluffy's Hair, which adds a bunch of hair options. There's also Yaki's Hair Salon and Marisol Hair Pack. I'd probably go with Fluffy and or Yaki's. Until build 42, crafting in Zomboid is pretty lackluster. I've still not been able to make a mod pack to do a zero loot caveman run. You always need to spawn something or another. First, you're going to want Craft Helper. It lets you search for items and see all the recipes that they're involved with. It works with every mod. Blacksmith adds in all the work in progress mechanics that the Indystone were working on before the update freeze prior to build 42. It's poorly balanced, but it lets you craft almost every single metal item in the game. It has a lot of gaps in the early levels though, so it's very hard to just get started with it. So you can't start with nothing and forage your way up to the top. I really don't like this mod, but it's kind of essential to fill the gaps that the other crafting mods have, at least if you're doing a zero loot run. In a normal game, it's okay apart from the balance. The real crafting mods are real metalworking, dynamic mining, biochemistry of life, ammo maker, scrap guns, scrap weapons, scrap armor, essential crafting, primitive survival, the engineer, the workshop, that's it I'm weaving, and a couple more. It may seem like a lot, but together these expand the crafting system so greatly that it feels like an update in and of itself. Rather than go into detail about each mod, I'll briefly overview them. Real metalworking is what blacksmith wants to be. It's a smelting and smithing mod that uses metalworking instead of a new smithing skill like blacksmith does. It's essentially a more balanced version of blacksmithing. It even uses the same assets. For the average player, this is the big and only smithing mod that you need. The reason I don't just suggest it on its own is because it has a lot of gaps, and the blacksmithing mod covers all of those, so having them both enabled lets you craft everything, with the important stuff being balanced. Dynamic mining allows you to forage and mine basic materials using a pickaxe. If there was a stone pickaxe, then a lot of the problems with progression would be solved, but as it stands, you need to loot or spawn a pickaxe, otherwise you could probably do a no loot run. Well, you also need one of the craftable saw mods, since to create a saw with blacksmithing, you need like 6 smithing, which takes months. Biochemistry of life deals with all the modern materials. Propane, petrol, glue and alcohol are all able to be created from crops. Yeah, farming is useful. Are you starting to see how all of these mods work together to create something greater than the sum of the parts? Scrap weapons, scrap guns, and scrap armor are all great standalone mods that give a purpose to metalworking. Compared to real metalworking, it's pretty overpowered, but in a no-loot scenario, it's much more balanced. Unlike the blacksmithing mods, this one uses the propane torch, which makes them great standalone mods if you don't want a big collection. There is some conflict somewhere with scrap guns and maybe ammo maker, I'm not sure, but the bullets sometimes cost way more than they should, so keep an eye out for that. But hey, if you're doing a no-loot run, then having a gun with expensive ammo is better than no gun at all, right? There's also a sub-mod called Scrap Guns, Craftable Gun Parts and Springs to let you craft the parts you won't be able to get on a no-loot run. Ammo Maker lets you craft gunpowder and all your ammo types. Again, Blacksmith adds ammo recipes, but I'd avoid them. You'll have a lot of duplicate recipes if you're running both, so just find the cheapest option. The Engineer and the Workshop are all about disassembling and creating complex machines. You can make a generator, for example, but when you combine these mods, you start to get some parts that don't work. I would avoid using all of them if you can help it. If you're not going to use guns, for example, then don't include Scrap Guns or Ammo Maker to avoid the conflict. Hell, if you're using guns, you're probably better off using only scrap guns or no scrap guns. Weapon modifiers isn't really a crafting mod, but I put it here as it has an option to add the tinkering skill, where you can use glue to gamble on making your weapons better. It doesn't work with most of the modded weapons and tools, but it's just a nice extra layer of depth. And there's the machines mod, which I haven't really had a chance to test. Then we have a few primitive survival crafting mods to cover the early game. Essential crafting, primitive survival, improvised backpacks, and that's it I'm weaving, let you make some basic clothes, armor, tools, and weapons. And it fills in many of the gaps that vanilla has. Essential crafting also comes with a stone saw, but it doesn't work for most recipes, so I begrudgingly recommend handmade saw, which gives you a real metal saw from stone materials, but you can actually craft everything with it. In tandem with That's It I'm Weaving, you have Yaki's Makeshift Clothes. This adds primitive to medieval clothing, including armor. One of the options of this mod is to have zombies only spawn with tattered clothing, meaning that you have to make your own clothing. They can still spawn with modded clothes, unfortunately. In a similar vein, the Vaccine Remod by Curus fleshes out and adds purpose to the medical skill. Having any kind of vaccine is incredibly overpowered, but it is a hard goal to achieve, which makes it great for challenge runs. But just be warned that you may lose motivation if your character is effectively immortal because you can cure any bite. I recommend customizing it for your level when you start your save. Grow Medicinal Herbs and Herbal Medicine Plus have a few overlapping recipes, but work in conjunction to cover the gaps that they both have. They pretty much do what it says on their tin. You can make medicine. To make all of this more difficult, Prepare for Winter is a configurable mod that makes farming, foraging, and fishing impossible in winter. So if you're doing a lootless challenge, winter is a huge deal. It also works great for a vanilla game, as you'll have to get enough food for winter as well as refrigeration, otherwise you'll be forced to go out and loot, which is a good thing. What could help with all of this is immersive solar arrays. It's a really nice alternative to generators. Arguably overpowered since you don't need gas, but it's a great mod that's completely configurable. You'll also want the craftable solar panels mod if you're doing no loot. You can tell I really like the idea of doing a no loot challenge. Building Menu is a pretty significant mod that adds a building menu with all the different tile variations. It seems well balanced, requiring you to use previously useless resources like plaster and concrete. Plumbing is a relatively new mod that lets you use electricity to pump water to barrels, sinks, baths, and plants. Ladders makes ladders work. Super simple, but it works so well. It even has its own animations, albeit a little janky. You can also craft them. Make Paths lets you make paths. Spear traps, as well as shovel debris, barricade hurt zombies, and stronger furniture barricades, add tangible base defense mechanics. Basically, zombies trying to break down a barricade, furniture or otherwise, take damage until either they die or the barricade breaks. It takes a bit to configure correctly, depending on how challenging you've made your game and your playstyle, but one of my favourite things to do is an I Am Legend style challenge, where zombies hunt you at night, and you have to make sure that your base is strong enough to withstand them. I really need to make a video on that challenge again. Destroyable world fences works pretty well with this, but you have to turn the health way down, or all the zombies will die on them, since they weren't designed with each other in mind. Repair wall and show wall health work great in tandem with all of these mods. Finally, just some nice things for building. Clean dirt lets you clean the irremovable dirt in your base. Remove debris lets you get rid of irremovable debris in vanilla, and Light Switch Electrician lets you move, assemble, and disassemble light switches. There's also Decaholic, which lets you choose which sprite shelves and cabinets have, fix player inside building, which fixes the issue where a player built room doesn't count as inside, and Container Tooltips and Rename Containers lets you name and see the names of bags and containers. So, we're on to quality of life mods. I'll start with Better FPS, a manual install mod with multiple settings. It essentially reduces the rendered area, sort of like Minecraft's render distance. This means that you'll get better FPS when you're zoomed out, and it also means less zombies are rendered. Good for high pop challenges, or if you have a potato PC. Advanced Volume Enabler lets you change the volume of mod sounds so you don't get deafened. Auto Cook automatically makes meals out of available ingredients instead of manually adding each ingredient. Auto Mechanics and Auto Sewing add a right-click option to train their respective skill. Backpack Borders makes your inventory bags more visible. Clear descriptions for moodles and more description for traits explain what traits and moodles do. Easy Corpse Move lets you move multiple corpses with one right click instead of many. Throw them out the window lets you throw corpses out of or over windows and fences. Use it with corpses stay carried for a tiny bit extra immersion. Disassemble containers with items does exactly what it says it does. Don't climb through that window makes it so that clicking doesn't make you jump through windows, which has legit killed me multiple times. Exercise with gear means that you don't have to take off your backpack to exercise. Kind of unimmersive, but I am lazy. Equipment UI adds a little box next to the inventory where you can easily equip and unequip items. Fire damage rebalance makes zombies burn 4 times faster and you burn 4 times slower. It's overpowered, but more realistic. Generator time remaining tells you how long your generator can run on its current fuel. Grab and drop lets you drop whatever's in your hands. You can also use it to quickly pick up anything on the ground. Moodle quarters and plain moodles make it clear what level each moodle is. Take your pick. And to complement that, Medicine Moodles shows when meds like painkillers, lemongrass, and beta blockers are still in effect. And Egon's hotkeys lets you bind actions like smoke or take meds. Has been read shows which books haven't been read, you've started, and have read. I might need a lighter gives you extra options to light cigarettes like campfires and stoves. Refillable lighters lets you fill your lighters with gas. Improved hair menu is a nicer way to choose hair in the character creator. Weapon condition indicator and item condition indicator make it visually clear on the condition of weapons and consumables. And if you want extra hotbar options like you see here, you want Noir's attachments, which lets you use tailoring to add hotslots to your bags. Keep that radio on, makes radios on your belt stay on. I could have sworn it worked for the radio channels and the emergency frequency, but it's essential for multiplayer, so you can hear and speak on the radio when it's not in your hand, which is basically all the time. Kill count gives you a breakdown of zombie kills, including fire and vehicles. Maintenance improves repair, does what it says it does. Maybe a little bit overpowered. Minimal display bars shows all your statuses in much more detail and is fully customizable. Nepenthes nearby traps removes the 80 tile requirement for traps to catch animals. Proximity inventory adds an option to loot everything around you. You can right click it at any point to disable it, which is helpful when putting loot away. Really useful for quick looting and corpse piles. Reload all magazines adds an option to do just that, and while you're at it, add open ammo boxes while moving and easy spare magazine reload for a hotkey. Reorder containers and reorder the hotbar lets you do exactly that. Save backpack attachments means that when you unequip and re-equip, for example a belt, your weapons will automatically be put back on the hotbar where you left them. Slow consumption makes consumables like batteries last longer. Rope climbing and jumping lets you switch climbing direction and jump off. Climb down the rope fixes the climbing animation. Snow is water lets rain collectors fill with snow, which can be collected as water. Stack all lets you combine consumables like thread and gunpowder into their least amount, reducing weight. Stop, drop and roll gives you a way to put yourself out. Surviving through seasons lets you change how many days are in a month, so if you don't want to spend 300 hours to experience one full year, you don't have to. Take any amount lets you do just that. Tree chop bug fix stops your axes breaking twice as fast as they're supposed to. Wake Them Up is an optimized version of building spawn fix, which enables buildings to spawn the zombies without you having to get close. It massively increases the zombie pop, but also means that those zombies can be attracted to noises, which helps clear areas. It can also cause quite bad lag in big cities. Nested containers lets you access containers inside containers. It makes organising things massively easier, but you'll constantly have garbage bags cluttering your container menu. Replace bandages does just that, but it's kinda pointless since dirty bandages don't do anything. Tailoring Fix makes it so that you get XP from ripping up clothes. Fixable backholes lets you fix backholes that you probably didn't know you had, and Foraging Z fixes the broken foraging zones. There's also Tidy Up Meister, which I kinda sleep on. So, I keep talking about challenges. I'm gonna have to break it up into two categories, starting with the challenge mods themselves. Later, I'll outline some combinations that make for good challenges. 10 Years Later is the definitive challenge mod. It can negatively impact performance, and it screws with most map mods. But I mean, come on, you gotta try it at least once. Anomalous Storm adds a deadly storm that forces you indoors. Similarly, The Darkness is Coming is a mod that adds fog that lasts for days. You configure it to last as long as you like, cause sprinters, vehicle malfunctions, as well as just being awful for visibility. Doom Zombies is a bit like CDDA zombies. It adds some pretty crazy zombie variations, like exploding zombies, skeleton zombies, super sprinters. Naturally, I also recommend CDDA zombies. If you want an extra challenge, disable the name tags so you don't know if a zombie is going to be a brute and come fuck your shit. Fatal Night makes darkness deadly. Kinda like Don't Starve. Fun little challenge. Here They Come and Horde Night are horde spawning mods. Horde Night is a more simple one-wave event, whereas Here They Come is a bit more configurable. You can use them both together. Alternatively, Calm Before the Storm doesn't spawn zombies, rather after a configurable amount of time, makes zombies avoid you to gather into a horde and then attack you. Hivemind makes it so that if one zombie sees you, all zombies see you, so they'll start heading for you. Random Zombie Day and Night combines all the different zombie configurable mods like night sprinters. Basically it lets you customize the percentage of sprinters, shamblers, crawlers, and even zombies that are able to open doors, based on day, night, and even rain, snow or fog. Cryogenic Winter makes things obscenely cold. You can configure it to different levels of difficulty. It's a great one-off challenge mod, but since it stays cold all year round, albeit less cold in the summer, I would recommend KYR Real Weather instead. Real Weather lets you customize the temperature ranges, so if you want a cryogenic winter and a cryogenic summer, you can, but if you want a cryogenic winter and a normal summer, or even a pyrogenic summer, you can also do that. I like this way more because it fits into every kind of challenge, especially since it has a deviation setting, so one winter or one summer day may be wildly different temperature to the last one. Schizophrenia Trait makes you hallucinate zombies and noises. Oh, every time! It's pretty easy to figure out, but you can also fall over and drop your items from jump scares.
Oh! What the fuck?
Use in tandem with Lingering Voices for a bit of extra flavour. Stay away from windows makes zombies instantly break windows and climb through. Susceptible makes it so that you can catch the infection from being near zombies. Corpses don't affect you, but you need to constantly maintain some kind of mask, and it forces you to avoid groups of zombies early game. Vaulting Zombies and Zombie Climb Wall played with sprinters will put hair on your chest. This is the easiest way to get the speedrun for shit yourself %. You can use Zombie Trip over Zombie and configure sprinters to balance it however you like. Tailman is good for a short little challenge, though I don't find it very interesting myself.
Boring!
And Zombie Reanimator makes it so that up to 100% of zombies reanimate. Then we have a couple of sandbox mods for changing the loot amount. More loot settings lets you customize all the loot options in great depth. I usually turn everything down to the minimum for a challenge. If you don't want to mess around with loot settings, then I highly recommend trying the 75% less food loot mod, which comes with options for 25, 50, 75, and 0% food loot. Food is so abundant that you never go hungry. 75% less is still too much in my opinion, but it'll force you to go out and loot more often, or rely on survival skills. Even with the zero food loot mod, you still find a ton of food through stories, which is a mechanic that tries to tell a story, like a body with a gun or bleach, or a table set with a pot of pasta. These spawn a lot of food, which you can also disable with the No More Food in House Stories mod. Time Decreases Loot and Time Decreases Car Condition can be really good ways to make your endgame more difficult, or to justify all those crafting mods without doing a zero loot run. I also recommend change sandbox options. It's not really something I use often, but it's nice to be able to switch to, say, sprinters halfway through a run. You can enable it and disable it at any time. I also recommend Xenotop's bomb recipes, bomb spawn as loot, and louder sound makers and remotes as a combination to make bombs a viable strategy in your game. Full disclaimer, all of these mods are overpowered in some way or another, so take that into consideration when using them. Naturally, we have to start with Brita's weapons and armour. These are very overpowered, very overwhelming mods. Your entire run will end up being gun focused. Make sure that Gunfighter 2.0, Brita's weapons, and mod options are enabled. I can't really not like it. The guns and their models are sick, as well as the functionality it brings, like hotkeys. If it's your kind of thing, go ham, and live out your operator fantasies. If you want something a little bit closer to vanilla, Firearms Build 41, Totally Historical Firearms, and Vanilla Firearms Expanded give you good range without completely taking over your game. Granted, any gun mod is going to be overpowered to some degree, but I usually run one of these. It's also worth checking out the rebalance for Firearms Build 41, purely for the ability to hip holster the Mac 10, and the Stalker Pack for Firearms Expanded. The Stalker Armour Pack is a bit out of place, but it looks damn cool. Noir's Rifle Slings simply adds a single item to the game that lets you have an additional two-handed weapon on your hotbar. Noir's Attachments is an expansion on that idea, adding the ability to tailor slots onto your bags which can hold all kinds of items. Works great with Item Condition Indicator and Save Backpack attachments. I've already mentioned the scrap mods, but I think it's worth a second mention. Coavin's Firearm Repair adds depth to the gun repair system. It doesn't work with every gun mod, and it's a bit hard to figure out, but it essentially makes it so that you have to disassemble guns into their base parts and can either repair or replace the worn parts. Clothes Box Redux is a relatively vanilla-friendly clothing mod. Some of the bags, like the bank robber chest rig, are overpowered as fuck, but it looks cool as hell. On the other hand, Authentic Z is quite an overwhelming mod. It comes with multiple options in the mod menu for you to be able to balance it, since some options are mega overpowered. It's basically a staple as zomboid at this point, so you're missing out if you've not already subbed to it. Spongie's Open Jackets makes vanilla clothes have multiple open, closed, rolled up, down, tucked in, and out states. It's a great way to get more life out of what's already in the game. But if you still want more, Spongie's Clothing adds some really nice clothes with the same open and closed philosophy. Fashionista enables all the clothing options in the character creator. It is pretty overpowered if you don't have the self-restraint to not give you all the most overpowered gear, but it also enables you to have some pretty drippy characters out the game. As for melee weapons, Bushcraft gear, both rare weapons and tools, is pretty popular, and pretty overpowered. I find that with a lot of melee weapon mods, they either give you an insanely high swing speed or high damage. The Splitting Axe, for example, is easily one of the best weapons in the game. More Pole Weapons is a relatively new mod that feels like a vanilla expansion. It's kind of like what we have with spears already, but for hammers and other weapons. Bow and arrow is a classic zombie trope. I recommend using it with the quality of life and archery skill book add-ons. But be warned, once you figure it out, it's pretty overpowered. Oh, also, the modular crafting is a bit confusing. Any arrow shaft is just an arrow, and in my experience, there's no benefit to putting fletchlings or arrowheads on them, since you can reliably one hit with just the shaft. Vanilla duffel bags secondary equipped lets you wear duffel bags on your lower back. It's overpowered, but people love this mod, so here it is. There is also Satchel with Bag, which lets you wear a satchel on top of this, and Better Satchel, which makes satchels take the fanny pack slot, letting you wear an additional 2 satchels. They clip pretty bad with the secondary duffel bag mod, and to be honest, nested containers is far more practical, since the weight reduction of the satchels and fanny packs is garbage. Reminds me of when I used to use a satchel full of books for school. My shoulder always hurt. Come to think of it, I've always had problems on that shoulder. I wonder if that's why. Usually bag mods are ludicrously overpowered. Like, look at this bag I found on Harvest Sea's Civ event. I got an entire airdrop of weapons in this thing.
Somebody keep a watch out, actually.
Okay, this section is a little bit weird. Joining a server inevitably gets you hundreds of car mods. I'm not really a fan of individual car mods, plus I don't want to just list 100 single cars. There is a lot of car-specific quality of life mods and packs that I do recommend, however. But first, I need to mention Better Car Physics. It's overpowered, but my god is it fun. It basically makes cars manual, so you can change gears. Funny given that it's a manually installed mod. Vanilla is automatic, and while the mod still defaults to automatic, you can always manually override what gear you're in. So when you're stuck on grass and your car wants to be in 4th gear, or you're trying to push through a horde, being able to stick it in first lets you push through way easier. It does conflict with Braven's Bicycles, Autosar Yacht Club and Motor Club, but they're janky as hell anyway, even without the car physics mod.
Functioning bicycle. Oh my god, the turn radius. What is going on? Oh my god, that's... Yeah, I think Better Car Physics is messing with this a little bit.
On its own, Braven's Bicycles is pretty good. You should check it out. Same goes for Yacht Club and Motor Club. Kinda janky, kinda fun. Autosar's Trailers, however, is a wonderful expansion on the limited trailers that Vanilla has. we can't talk about cars and not talk about RV interiors. It works by adding an option to enter the interior of some vehicles, which in reality teleports you to a far off point in the map where all the interiors are located. It's not a perfect solution, but it's the only solution we'll ever get. And it works. Who doesn't want to live a nomad lifestyle? Some of the good RV interior vehicles are Autosar's tuning bus, Dash Roamer, double-decker bus, and the various interiors that come with Filibuster's rhymes. I mean, I don't really need to talk about Filibusters, do I? It even has a 10 years later texture pack now. Another good pack is the Motorious Zone vehicle pack, which adds some nice luxury and sports cars. Small Town First Responders replaces the emergency service vehicles with really nice realistic alternatives, like real ambulances and fire trucks. If you don't want to install any new car mods, then Vanilla Vehicle Enhancer replaces the vanilla car textures. And possibly my favourite car mod is Standardized Vehicle Upgrades. It allows you to make and install armour on every single vanilla vehicle. If I were to recommend any individual cars, the 78 AM General set adds a few variations of a military utility truck which can contain fuel, water, or a flatbed. There's also the M92 Humvee, which comes for trailer, and if that's your style, maybe try the M998 house car. If you're into military vehicles, just check out everything by KI5. The W900 semi-trucks are just nice. Tow truck has actual towing functionality. Forklift also has functionality and can help you become forklift certified. I also recommend getting pallet crates in warehouses. And finally, the UH60 is perfect for your operator dream, even if it's janky and overpowered as fuck. Next, we have car quality of life and additions. Naturally, I recommend using time decreases car conditions that we mentioned earlier. A good little addition to this is the battery jumpstarter mod, which is otherwise completely useless. Mileage expansion adds an odometer. Coloured battery status, engine status, and car door open indicator make the icons represent the condition of the respective parts. Vehicle light chime plays a sound when you turn the engine off while the lights are still on. Faster HUD opening. Fuel side indicator. I know all vanilla vehicles are the same side, but I still forget. Easy heater and easy light bar repair let you repair their respective parts. And vehicle part repair and vehicle recycling let you repair individual parts or scrap them for materials. Alright, maps. I've been meaning to finish the Nomad run that goes through all the compatible map mods to make a tier list with it, so we'll make this segment quick. Plus, this video has been in the works for, Jesus. Yeah, let's get this over with. Ashenwood, Battlefield, Louisville, Bedford, Big Bed Lake, Blackwood, Bridgeout, Siowen, Cattsville, Cedar Hill, Chestertown, Chinatown, Copper State, Dirkdam, Evac, Muldrow, Elysium, Erie County, Fort Benning, Fort Knox, Fort Redstone, Grapeseed, Greenleaf, Louisville, Airport, Lake Cumberland, Lake Ivy Little Township, Louisville, Shippingport, Martridge Expansion, Military Depot, New Ekron, Overfield, Pit Stop, Rabbit Hash, Raven Creek, Redstone Raceway, Research Facility, Fort Knox to Bedford, Rosewood Expansion, Rosewood Hospital, Slocan Lake, Southwood, The Frigate, The Walking Dead Prison, Triple County Power Station, Utopia, Walnut Ridge, West Point Expansion, Wilbur, and Mega Mall.
Oh my god, I did it in one take. Holy shit.
Lost to Nature is probably the best wilderness map out there as well. Okay, as promised, here's some challenge ideas or mod combinations. I've got to start with I Am Legend. I spent a long time working on this challenge. It didn't pan out at the time because I was adamant about using Fear the Sun, but it's pretty janky and I'd get swarmed by sprinters during the day a lot. Me being an idiot, I didn't even consider making day zombies crawlers until making this video. So, essentially, I made a set of mods to emulate a sort of nightly tower defense. Horde Night or Here They Come spawns your nightly zombies, otherwise you'd pretty easily kill all the zombies in range during the day. The Calm Before the Storm and Fear the Sun helps them avoid you during the day and come for you at night, since the Horde Night mod only draws them in for like an hour. One big problem that I had is that all the Horde mods work by sound, so not only the Horde spawn zombies come for you, all the hot single zombies in your area. So Night 1 is almost always much harder than Night 2. You can either start with extremely low zombie population and hope that the game spawns zombies over time, or that the Horde Night mod with increasing zombies makes it feel like the zombies are increasing. But yeah, the combination of barricade hurt zombies, destroyable world fences, stronger furniture, and Horde Night make a gameplay loop that revolves around building a defensible base and repairing it every day. This was my passion project for a while. It requires a lot of tweaking to get right, and it all depends on how hard you make it and how good of a player you are, but it's probably the challenge I had the most fun creating and testing. You can add Anomalous Storm and the Darkness is Coming to spice things up, kind of acting like fog or clouds to make it dark enough for the sprinters to come out. Random Zombies also lets you make rain sprinters. I would personally play with Infection on, even though canonically Rabbit Neville is immune. You can run Curtis' vaccine mod if you want the sciencey side. Okay, so that was the big one. The rest of the challenge ideas are smaller and less complex. If you want a more challenging 28 Days Later style sprinter run, vaulting zombies, stay away from windows, and zombie climbs wall make zombies extremely deadly. To balance it out, you can use configure sprinters to reduce or even remove the sprinter slowdown effect, the jump mod, and if you need it, climb walls. Though I think it's not really in theme with the challenge. Climb walls lets you climb up and onto the next level, which zombies can't do. I recommend playing this on lower zombie populations. Immortal Hive Mind is an idea I've been playing with, which takes the Hive Mind mod, which makes all zombies share aggro, basically if one sees you, they all see you, and the Zombie Reanimator mod, set to 100% reanimation chance. The idea is that zombies will constantly be drawn to you, and because they reanimate, the hordes will constantly grow. You have to either deal with the bodies, use stealth, or be nomadic. Fire is extremely powerful in this challenge, so it might be a house rule to use no fire or no fire spread. I think there's probably some caveats I haven't thought of, but it sounds like a fun challenge. One of my favourite things to do for a bit of fun is to play a mega overpowered character, probably with an operator profession mod, and breed as weapons and armour with the Doom Zombies mod. It's really silly, high action, gung-ho madness. It's not particularly a long-term challenge, given all the fire and explosions, but it's a fun little romp. No loot, as you can probably imagine, is one of my favourites in Zomboid. As I've said multiple times, it's not really possible in vanilla, unless you want to be stuck with stone tools. So, you need to combine all the crafting mods to make it possible. And even still, you're probably going to have to start with a pickaxe. I think you can use the blacksmith mod to make a pickaxe? After a long process of gathering stone for a furnace and melting... I'm not sure. It's the first bits of metal you need. You can do it with a raw materials only run, like Private Lime did, where you can loot anything but you can only use the loot to melt into raw materials. Either way is a great challenge. Build 42 should allow for no loot runs out the gate, so this is a good way to prepare. Trapped is a classic challenge, be it the mall, the mega mall, the prison, the Walking Dead prison, a ship mod, or just any large enough building. If you want to progress beyond just surviving, you'll need the crafting mods. Not all of them, just the ones that let you make things, but there's no reason not to use all of them. It's just about giving you limited resources, so you have to find creative solutions. Nomad is pretty much a classic at this point. It really came into its own with the RV interior mod, and since its release, it has a ton of compatible car mods now. Personally, I'd say try the RV interior method once. If you love it, stick with it. If you're indifferent, then doing a nomad run out of a car, or even as a hitchhiker, can be tons of fun. The mobile base factor is cool, but again, good challenges are all about limitations. You have to choose what to take because of limited space. Maybe you have to make a camp outside of town and hike in, or maybe your objective is simply to get to the other side of the map. Great accents to this challenge are standardized vehicle upgrades, any tuning vehicle, and if you really want to turn up the difficulty, try playing with empty gas stations and 10 years later. Cryogenic winter as a concept is pretty simple. Survive the cold. The mod itself has multiple difficulties. You can either play with power on at the start, so all houses are safe temperatures, or with the power starting off for a hardcore experience. Another way to play is prepare for winter. Using the KYR mod, make the winters brutal, but the summers either normal or just cold, and play out a Frostpunk end of the world scenario, where you have 100 days to prepare for the unending storm. And there's probably a good combination for the Fatal Night mod. Enable the day setting, and you can combine it with the Darkness is Coming, maybe even set to Eternal Darkness, which is darker than vanilla at night. Or, you could combine it with Day Sprinters and Night Chamberlains to make it so you can only go out at night. As always, thanks to the patrons and channel members: Chaos, Delicate Soul, Shushgirl, Jory Alvink, Katsune Teku, Dominic Ingracia, GamerGuy69, Harkness, Mason Brewer, Squatlock, Kimchi, Vitko, Aurora, Jabol, Chromechan but JJF, Foxfired, Heresy, Will Cthulhu, Frank Knox, Sightlin, Diane S, Zoran Games Remastered, Samwise210, Johnny Test, Turk Leader, Composite Armour, Lollypoop, Trio Forces, and Trip Fellow. Alright, bye.